and Dave, I have a question for you guys. So
Fire away.
remember that J. Cole album I was just rambling on about a couple weeks ago, and I was absolutely over the moon? I don't give a fuck about it anymore.
Wow.
It leads me to my question here.
Wow. So good. Wow.
Our album's dead.
I was just about to ask that same thing. So randomly enough, so you were talking about, or Kenny was talking about how it took him a few listens to get used to the Olivia Rodrigo, not just get used to it, but to like it, enjoy it. And I found myself, and this is like a douchey, like I was on the Peloton, and they were playing. I just pick random classes to do because I don't know what I like or what I don't like yet. And it was a Lizzo class. And at the end of it, I was like, wow, this is pretty good.
Wow.
And I fucking hate her. I went out of my way to hate her, just assuming I would hate her music. But I was like, wow. And I'm trying to look up her album. It's all singles. Like there are no albums, unless I'm missing something, because I didn't go too deep into her discography, but it was just like single after single after single. And she's obviously a megastar.
I'm going to just drop this out there because I really have been thinking about this a lot. And it sucks to be someone who creates albums and loves albums. But I think that my brain is now processing content in different ways. And unless I already love and know the album track by track, I'm having a hard time being able to sit down and digest 10 songs of new music.
Sure.
And it sucks because it's how I grew up. It's like what I love. I want to digest in a complete work of art. I want a concept album. I want to live in the world of an album. But I don't know maybe it's because
I think we just have smaller attention spans now, like because of social media. We need like instant gratification on everything, or the other way around. You need to hate something immediately.
Go ahead, Kenny.
I think a big part of it is, remember when we were kids and you would go at midnight to the local CD store and you would wait in fucking line and you would get a physical copy in your hand that you held against your heart, and you pulled out the sleeve and you read every lyric, you read the thank yous, you read who it was made by, right? Like there was a tangible thing about records when we were coming up that now with digital, it's just so easy to be so removed from owning it because you don't own it, right? You're borrowing it, you're streaming it, right? So it's like there's a lot of that psychology, I think, in that. But yeah, it's like why would any band put out albums these days or even EPs, really? Because does it waste songs? I don't know. With the way, you know,
we talk about this with Armani later in the podcast, and this was not a pre-planned thing. He started to talk about this, and it always feels like when I put a collective work of art out that I just wasted 4 to 5 of the songs because people are going to pick through for the singles or the ones that they see on our list of our top 5
because you
songs.
can add one song from an album to a playlist and yada yada yada. You know, it's like
on an artistic side though, you can create an album's worth of content around one song nowadays. You can do a music video, you can do a behind the scenes thing, you can do a whole campaign around one single. Back in the day, you weren't doing that. You were only releasing singles to get ready for a full-length album.
Yeah.
This is a change.
I could say that too. I had been a part of albums with AWOL, but I had never made an album on my own, start to finish, for like my own project. And when we went to make Fitness Karate LP, everybody told us you're gonna waste songs. It's pointless. What are you doing? Blah blah blah. And I just fucking wanted to do it once to have one, like I made a 10-song body of work that cohesively runs start to finish, yada yada. So like there's some sort of gratification, I bet, you know, I feel from the artist side, but yeah, from like a business standpoint, you're like you feel like you're losing songs because people could just pick out what they like and never listen to the whole album again.
And what's really funny is you always have people who will be, when you're an artist, they want to pick you and be like, when's the album coming out? When's the album coming out? And you're like, because we are programmed as people who make things to do things a certain way. So when you're going through your steps, it's like, okay, single album. And I want to do that, but at the same time, you have to recognize the trends of what's going on. And not only that, fuck trends. It's how do people consume things. I can't even sit through a full album, and I'm a music nerd. Who is to say that somebody sitting in their living room in fucking Chicago is going to sit down and who wants to listen? Who wants to listen to 13 Foxtrot?
You know, and now there's something even more special about when you can say that whole album.
Yeah,
that whole album is fucking dope from start to finish, because that just doesn't fucking happen anymore. But there are, you know, every once in a while you get one and you're like, I mean, it doesn't really pain me to say, but like the new 21 Pilots record, I've been listening to it nonstop. It's fucking great. It's like another good start to finish record.
Bro, and I talked about this on the last podcast, but the Currency mixtape with The Alchemist that he put up on streaming, I've been running that constantly. And maybe that's because I love Currency as a person. Like, I think if you're going to listen to a full band's project, you have to have a special relationship with that artist to care that deeply to listen to all those songs.
And while we're talking about albums, we talked about it like 3 or 4 podcasts ago. That fucking St. Vincent record is
dude,
one of the best things in the last 5 years. Hands down.
Dude. So badass. Well, Dave, I mean, you are from the consumer side at this point.
Yeah. I was going to say, like, it's maybe a time or two a year that I'll, and honestly 2 is probably too much. It's probably more like once a year I'll find an album that I love and I just run it back start to finish. Last one was OK Human. I thought Van Weezer stunk. Actually, I thought it was pretty fucking bad. Like there's been a bunch of albums that have been released, but I haven't really looked forward to it other than cherry picking songs here and there. So
I mean, that totally makes
sense. I feel
sense,
you guys.
But you have a relationship with Weezer. You know what I mean? Like, you've had a long-standing relationship where you've loved Weezer for a very long time.
I like looked forward to that release, and I knew that I was going to give it a shot for weeks ahead of time.
You know who does good albums? We should have a good segment too. Tame Impala.
Yep. Childish
Gambino.
Oh yeah.
Alt J. Yes. There are some album fucking bands that are so creative. You know, they do exist out there. It's a funny thing.
But I will say though, bands like Gambino had singles prior. Do you know what I mean? Like,
oh, totally, yeah.
You have to hit that first single to gauge people's interest. But more than importantly, I think I've talked myself into this throughout this conversation. You have to build a relationship with your fans. It's not as easy as just press an LP and then all of a sudden people want to listen to it. You have to build an identity and tell a story that people want to hear.
It's Game of Thrones, man.
Bro,
yeah,
I mean, but that's
perfect analogy.
It's Game of Thrones. You move this piece here, I move this piece here. That didn't work. Take this, move it over here.
And it's not just music, though. It's the Barstool thing as well. You guys always preach there has to be a story there. People have to give a shit to listen to what you have to say.
Absolutely. I mean, it's like that's a perfect way to put it.
Yeah.
Damn, I'm fucking smart. Well, that was just the conversation that I needed to start with because it was bothering me. It was literally to where I was just in my car and I put on the J. Cole album and I was like, when's he gonna come out with something new?